Hi everybody, it's so fantastic to see you. Welcome to Guru Live at Glasgow. Just to tell you, this is kind of the boring stuff, we'll be releasing podcasts of today's session, plus lots of original content from all the coming weeks. So there's details on all our platforms they find on our BAFTA website. The BAFTA website is your friend. And also, if you want to tweet or anything else, we'd love to see all your highlights. Just tag at BAFTA Scotland on Twitter using the hashtag GuruLive, and then you can follow BAFTA Scotland on Instagram and share your snaps. No bottoms, please. Now, there's virtually no point in me introducing this next guest, because if you don't know who this is, you have been living in a cultural wilderness for years, wandering alone in a desert of no talent, because this is one of the most important writers, actors, comic dark forces that we've ever produced in the UK. He is, of course, the wonderful, and you will have to tell your grandchildren that you're in the same room as him, Reece Shearsmith.
Thank you.
It's actually Reece Shearsmith. He's actually in Glasgow. Thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome.
It's so brilliant. Reece, we've got tons to talk about. We're going to keep a kind of an industry focus on this, because this is what everybody's here to do. Yeah. I'm just going to start by saying...
ignoring all them lots.
No, sorry.
To bring it out.
You'll get your chance for questions, by the way, at the end of it, so don't worry, we'll come to you. League of Gentlemen, Psychoville, Inside Number 9, all absolutely impeccable. It's one of the things that surprised me is you've always been bubbling in the background there, just being absolutely adored, revered by critics, viewers, everything. It seems to have taken quite a long time for you to get noticed. I know it sounds stupid. You won tons of awards, but you know what I mean. You've been doing this wonderful work for years, and Inside Number 9 particularly was a real slow burner with all the proper awards ceremonies and everything, and that's really bugged me.
Good,
frankly.
It has me. Well, I don't know. I mean, without turning into Ollie Plimsoll.
Issues. That's the last time I'll do that.
I think, well, you know, I wake up every day pleased that they're still deciding that there's a place for me and Steve's voice and vision, and that we're allowed to occupy writing this dark comedy stuff that we do. And you know, it was never a decision to think that no one's doing that, so let's do a dark comedy. It was just our sense of humour, and that's what people have decided it is. And yet, you know, I think maybe tonally people have us pegged in a certain area, and that's why it doesn't ever broaden out. They're happy with the weird fans that like our stuff, and that's it. And there's a lid on it. And I think it's there are some episodes of Number 9 that is very silly, and our work is sometimes really silly, and also very dark and dramatic as well. And it's a hard thing to categorise, and therefore maybe it suffers slightly from being pegged as one thing that they think only a certain amount of people will enjoy. Where I think if you dared to show other people or your friends that you think might not like it, that you would find something in it, because it's just human nature, you know.
Well, that is a really good point, is that you're not really allowed to be a polymath, are you? The whole point is that if you peg yourself, I do this, I do that. The fact is that Number 9 isn't just comedy. There's incredible dark pathos in it. There's real drama. And they can't bear it when you nimbly skip between the two, really, can they?
Yeah, well, we try to do that. And I think, you know, we were talking earlier, I think it's to do with the confusion. You know, it's on at 10 o'clock on BBC Two, which is the decision has been made that there's things in it that are quite horrible. And yet, at 9 o'clock on BBC One, even in the EastEnders sometimes, you get quite horrific things. But you're sort of geared up for it, because that's your mindset has gone into it with, all right, this is one of these Working the Deads where there's going to be a body and there's child abuse and all these horrible things. But we smuggle in horrors into a comedy where your mind is sitting down to watch what you think is going to be a light-hearted thing. And so the sucker punch of it affecting you where you're not steeled for it, I think is all the greater. So that's maybe why it is as affecting as it is, because we don't just do comedy. I mean, in fact, we haven't done comedy for about 20 years. So it feels like it's always, truthful. We try to do it truthfully, and our writing has really changed over the years from being sketches and a one-joke thing to very quickly realising there was more mileage and it was more interesting to take a character from its initial joke and take it out of the initial joke and give it a life that continues outside of its initial joke. And can you do that? Can they become a three-dimensional character that you care about over time?
What was it just going from 4 writers on League of Gentlemen, because Jeremy Dyson was the 4th people that didn't appear, to 2? I mean, writing by committee, I can't imagine how 4 of you write that.
Yeah, well, we never did. I mean, we wrote as pairs. Steve and I wrote together, and Mark and Jeremy wrote together. And the hardest part of writing the League was always coming back together to see pool the material of what we'd written and how it would all fit, if it could fit, because it was all disparate sketches. And our League obviously was just a series of sketches with weird characters and situations. And the not very clever idea that we housed it in was to put it into a town, just have them, for the radio we called it Spent, and we thought it would be a sort of literary joke, the idea that it was on its last legs. But it was more than, we didn't want to just do disparate sketches, so we thought let's put it all in a town, and then Benjamin could arrive and he could be the eyes of the audience experiencing these weird people, and we had Barbara who was able to take us around town as a taxi driver. So that was the nuts and bolts of it. And then that idea became bigger than the sum of its parts. It was, Royston Vasey became a weird place that these things could happen in, and yet it was only ever the characters and the sketches that were that.
But yeah, it started to become, there was a narrative coming through, even like with Mickey Love, but it became really, really tragic. So
but the writing, sorry, to go back to the writing of it, was, that was easy-ish to, obviously we just write lots of disparate things, but then the discipline was, it's a shame, that's a brilliant historical sketch that Mark and Jeremy have written, but it doesn't fit. And so we had to have the parameters on it where, some things that we thought were great, we couldn't do. And that was surprising to us as young writers, because we thought, well, why can't we do the things we've written that we think are really good? But it was a good lesson in learning that you've got to know what your thing is and stick to it in the allotted world that you've decided upon. I mean, in the end, we managed in League Live to do some historical stuff and fit those things in that we wanted to do. But it was as much about what you could do as what you couldn't. But suddenly writing Psychoville only with Steve was much easier in a way than, because we didn't have the other 2 voices. Suddenly it was, and we were able to look on and follow through that big arc of a story, quite consciously writing something that was much more narrative-driven than League. It was always there, creeping into the League with 3rd series, which became more of an ongoing story. But we suddenly felt like we should write something that was it was sort of the early days of 24 and the box set world, and we thought it'd be nice to do something where you couldn't wait to watch the next one. So there was an exercise in that. And then we went back to single stories with Number 9, which was because we got so sick of having to write this big, sprawling thing, that it was nice to just do one-offs.
Let's have a clip from League of Gentlemen actually first, because we've got some clips. So let's have a look at that first. That character, who recurs a lot. I mean, this brings me actually to something we were talking about earlier. You play all the way through, even in Psychoville. Actually, there's always a character that you develop as a really furious, angry man. really furious, and barely holding it together. That always hides some kind of damage. Would you like to discuss that?
Well, it's not a big leap of the imagination, is it, to realise there's a lot of that in me. And, I did Mr. Jelly as well, was a very angry character. And Ollie Plimsolls. I've always enjoyed the disproportionate rage of some of my characters. And so I don't know where it's come from. Obviously, I've got pent-up fury, but I like playing the sort of the build-up. I think it's to do with the drama of taking something, that's got a lid on it and keeping it bubbling but then bursting it in appropriate moments.
It usually ends up in terrible tragedy as well. So it's, I mean, you invite us to laugh at them and think they're despicable, and then you end up.
Well, I think that's it's always surprised me about the league. I mean, there was such joy for when we brought it back. It seemed that the people really that knew it, because it's years old now. It's 20 years ago. People might not know it anymore. But I was always surprised at how much love there was for these characters. Although, and I wasn't as well, because we did try to, however grotesque, and it was broad, and there was some very sort of big makeups in it. It's like Mr. and Mrs. Tiggywinkle, some of it, Tubbs and Edward. But they are big characters, and yet hopefully there's a kernel of truth in the performances that allowed you to sort of see beyond the cartoon-like initial joke and stay with them long enough to start to care. And then you've got all to play for if things start to happen to them and you're feeling things and you're conflicted. We did the character of Harelip, and in the film we explored what it would be like to acknowledge that you're just a set of innuendos. That's your character trait, and people feel sorry for him and a known pederast, murderer, and Tubbs and Edward and Pauline, who was the biggest monster of them all, and people began to feel conflicted about how she was being, her plight that we put her through, having her sacked, and her job was everything, and suddenly you see this monster as a human, and that's when you've got them then, because you think you can manipulate the feelings. It was joyful to play with their initial joke and sort of try to make them real, because that's something that you can really explore and start to mine their character more, and it doesn't feel then that it is just this one joke thing that you're just repeating. We were never big on we were always fearful of it turning into something that you could predict and that was just the same every week. And we really, I hope, have never done that. And we're fans of things that maintain a level of scrutiny on the writing and don't just churn it out. If I'm ever accused of it, I'd be mortified to think that people thought it was lazy, because we really try hard to not be.
That's a great point to bring up here, because there's I think there's this, occasionally you get somebody who bursts onto the scene, inverted commas, just because they appear on TV, people go, this brand new person.
Yeah.
And in actual fact, they've spent years and years and years developing
an
it.
overnight 10-year success.
Yeah, like Phoebe Waller-Bridge or whatever, exactly, yeah. And I think one of the greatest skills a writer or an actor, any artist at all has, is the concealment of process. It's the art lies in the concealment of art. So I remember seeing you on the couch in some breakfast or something, and they going, oh, you must have lovely fun. You go, oh, yes, we have lots of fun. But it's not just fun, is it? It's absolutely sweating every single detail.
It is, yeah. I mean, you sort of don't want to reveal the magic trick of it, really, because that's what... I mean, I hate it when... I'm doing plays, and in rehearsal they want to bring in cameras to take little shots of us rehearsing to put on the website just to start to advertise it. It's like we don't know what we're doing yet. And don't bring in, I saw Michael Gambon interview, and they were asking him about, I think it was on the South Bank, and they asked him if they could come back, and he was like, and he absolutely wouldn't want them in the backstage area. He said, it's magic what we do here. And I thought, yeah, it's good, keep a lid on some of it, don't expose all of it, because it is literally like a magic trick. I mean, some people love magic because they don't know how it's done. Others think it's dumb because they think they're being tricked, and they want to know it, and they'll go, show me what's up your sleeve. Oh, yeah, see? Shit, that what you just did. I loved it for a minute when I didn't know. Now it's just crap because I can see the mechanics of it. And I think that about the process of just sort of revealing everything. I mean, there is no magic to it. It's toil, and it's hard work. I mean, it's not... My brother is a fisherman, so I know what real hard work is. So I can't pretend that this is like the same thing that he does. But it's exhausting of the mind. We sit and we agonize, even more so now with number 9, with pulling the rug over people's eyes when they're all geared up to look for the surprises. And that's a harder thing to hide now because people are onto it. But it is a lot of work, and we don't have much time to film them anymore. The budgets go down and down every series, and we did this last series in 28 days, which was really quick. That was 5 days an ep, and one episode we did it in 3 days. And that constraint we really felt this time, and it was much harder work. So it's not just pissing around laughing and doing take after take, although Peter Kay does that. But we haven't got time.
We've got a good clip to show. Actually, listen, I can back that up because I was honoured enough to work with you for
yes,
2 lines.
Number 9.
I have never been quieter on a set in my entire life. I was terrified, the great Fiona Shaw and you acting, and there was no laughs at all.
Yeah,
especially when that prop by left a script in shot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. We have to do it again. Yeah, it's funny because you're making comedy, and the thing that I'll say that, not that funny, some of them, but that you're trying to do good work, and it can be stressful, and yet on the other side of it, the dexterous thing to try to do on a set is to keep it feeling fun and free, and you are trying to do make it enjoyable. Because you can't. I've been on sets where it's gone wrong and there's an atmosphere. Never on my things, but acting other people's things, and someone has kicked off, or there's been and it just descends as a gloom, and you can't be funny anymore. And it's a real skill in keeping that buoyant. And they do talk about filming like it's a slow motion emergency, and you do have that terrible ticking, gut-wrenching feeling of the day being lost, waiting on things. But it's stuff to have to just put behind you when you're in front of the camera doing it, and you've got to make it all go away and in the moment look the most relaxed you've ever been. And it's a very counterintuitive thing.
Again, it's the concealing of the effort. I mean, it's... actually, we've got a clip, from Carshare, which really went viral. And actually, I want you to look at this in a really different light from what we've just been talking about, because I spotted this right off, and I just checked with Reece that I was right, is that you're trying to get this right, and you're an annoying piece of cake. And honestly, watch this and see what you think. Right. That's not the clip I'm talking about. The clip I'm talking about, you just go on YouTube and see the outtakes of that scene, right? That's what I was talking about, because that's the edited version, which is brilliant, which is in the show. But if you look at the outtakes, where Reece is really concentrating, trying to get that funny, and then Peter Kay keeps laughing, and you're getting really annoyed with him, because you're making a show.
Well, yeah. I mean, it gets frustrating when it goes. There's a point where coaxing becomes not a good thing, and you think, actually, I don't think I can ever recover from it. And that's scary when you've got that fear of, I'm going to laugh, and you start seeing people getting actually annoyed with it, and it's not funny anymore. And yet that only makes it worse, It's a delicious, terrible feeling. And Peter he is a giggler, and he laughs a lot, and I suspected he was not going to get through this. And I didn't help it.
No, you didn't help it.
I sort of was then. It gave me permission to go further with it, which is maybe what he was after. But he knows what he wants, and he can get across if you go too far with it. But that day he was laughing his head off, and we did it. It was a lovely whole day.
Honestly, find it on the internet. It's really brilliant outtakes. Talking about the low budget, they're cutting constant budget for Inside Number 9. This is slightly bugs me, and I'm going to suggest that this might be the case. Is it because you're so unbelievably highly regarded by your peer group as well as an audience, you can get these massive names on who I know do Number 9 for rate. So, you could get somebody who would normally charge, they just couldn't possibly afford them, right?
Yeah.
And that's slightly using you, really. Because you can snap your fingers and anyone will come on Inside Number 9.
Well, that's lovely to say. I mean, we do hear now that actors are aware of when it's casting or when it's about to be cast, and say, "Have you thought about me for it?" Which is lovely. I know why. It's because it's an appealing thing for an actor to come and do a week in the thing, and it's generally done in 5 days, and you could fit it in. Some people we've had that have been able to fit it in, but no one has turned us down that we've suggested, that we've asked to do, and we've always managed to get people. We never write them with anyone in mind. We've always written them and then just hope nearer the time, the 2-week window that you've got when you approach cast actually filming it, then you start asking if you're free for, you can't hope to have people keep things free for months in advance. So we've always been lucky, but they do. We do get good names on BBC Two for them.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. it's not the be-all and end-all of it, but it's lovely to think that there's a thing like it, because it's nice to get these guest casts that are different every week, and it's one of those things you don't really see as much on TV, and that was why we wanted to do it. It was just a little playhouse where the writing was the thing, and it's sort of slipped into it being always these surprising twists, but that wasn't the sort of the opening gambit. That wasn't what we went in pitching. It wasn't, we want to do Tales of the Unexpected. It was more just storytelling and having a place where you could do the one-off half hour. Like, it was a massive tradition in the 70s, and there's a long history of TV that is that. Brilliant television.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it just didn't seem like it was around. And partly, I think, due to the thing of the box set, hook people in, write stories that have returning characters, because that's your only way an audience will stay with you mindset, which is still around, but maybe less so. I'm not really sure. It's great to hear that they're doing a Twilight Zone again, and there is more, and Black Mirror is one-off stories, but there is a thematic thing across those. Our things have no link other than Steve and I write them all and are in them all, and tonally there's a thing about that's us. So that's your link and way in. But it was really just the opportunity of telling some stories and playing with television, playing with the way that you can tell stories on television, and the concept of what it means to be beamed into people's homes and experience a program. I mean, never more so than when we did the Halloween special last year, where we didn't want to do it live. We thought it wouldn't be we thought, well, EastEnders do live ones now. It's an out to do a live one. And then we thought, why would we bother? Again, because we didn't want to feel like we'd just done it, like everyone else would just do it. So I said, well, the only real reason to do it is if it goes wrong. That would be exciting, because then you're playing with the very idea of it. So then there was this big, elaborate lie that we had to spin with, because we were so fearful that it would get out. If it got out, everything is gone about it. If you knew it was... So it was imperative that that people believe we were doing a live one, and fingers crossed it all goes right on the night. And we knew we'd get questions about whether it would go wrong, because that's what they asked. Are you frightened it's going to go wrong? Well, yeah, no, but we'll stumble through, and I think that's why people... And we went on the one show deliberately. We don't like doing press, but... we went on the one show to seed the idea of the ghosts. If everyone's not seen it, then I'm spoiling it, sorry. But we knew that there'd be a bit in it where... It was an ironical nod to what happened in the program, that the ghosts get us at the end. That if we went on the one show promoting it, and we got the presenters didn't know anything about it, but our producer knew their producer, and they have a meeting where they talk about what questions they're going to ask the guests, and we got their producer to say to them, and ask them if they believe in ghosts. Maybe, because it's Halloween and blah, blah, blah. Not sure that they would, because there's a list, and you may or may not do it, and we thought, let's please God they ask us. And they did, because the first thing we thought was we can't let them in on it, because they'll be suddenly shit actors. Because they'd love it. Oh, yeah, no. And so we thought they've got to do it like they would really do it on the night. So they did, and they didn't know, and they fell into our trap, and they asked, do you believe in ghosts? And no, not at all. And then I thought, brilliant, we've got it. We've got that moment on television that we can then put in the programme at the end. So it was an elaborate hoax thing, great. Which worked, I was really pleased, because we wanted it to be as authentic as possible. I thought, well, when it's 2.5 minutes into A Quiet Night In, a repeat of an old one, you're never going to think it's now, this is still part of it. You'd absolutely, because it's too long. Yeah. And happily, a fifth of the audience turned off. So weirdly, I was pleased about that, because it meant we'd done it correct. Not really what you're striving for, but...
Well, Twitter went mad.
Yes,
Twitter went mad. People were going, oh my God, what's happened?
I did my tweet on the night. Well, that went out on the night.
I know, and that was a real sort of double bluff, because you're actually watching it.
The mad thing about that was I had to have my real phone on to do the tweet, so people were texting me when they thought it had gone wrong. Darren Brown texted me, oh, fucking hell, I'm so sorry. Like, yes, this is the kind of thing you do. So I loved it, because it was like, yeah. Well, I was having to sort of delete, I was trying to do the acting, I knew the camera was on me, and I was getting, Darren's texting.
I've got so many brilliant clips, actually. I'm going to just show this one with Alan Partridge, because this ties into the angry man with issues. Right. Here's Reece on Alan Partridge. And again, you should watch that whole thing, but again, we end up sympathising with you. That's occurred to me as well, that when you did the the recent League of Gentlemen series, I bet you were worried about diluting the legacy, because the legacy is so enormous and solid.
Oh, yeah.
And also, the other thing is that, because I can't believe it's 20 years, that's terrifying. There's jokes in there, there's characters in there in the original series that you couldn't do now.
Absolutely,
And I just wondered how on earth you sort of had to deal with that, because you wouldn't want it to be diluted, and you'd want it to be as strong and authentic, but you just can't do those things.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. We decided that we couldn't, if we wanted to do it at all. And there's been a few years where we could have done a return to the league, because you can just pick your 20-year anniversary. It could be when we first did it, when no one saw it. It could be when we first did the radio. It could be when we first did the TV. It could be when we first did the Edinburgh. So there was time, years were rolling on. It was like, it could be this year if we all decide to do it and stop doing other things. And we eventually thought, well, let's write it. Jeremy said, let's just write it. And if we don't like it or think it's not going to do us any favours, we won't do it. No one's making us do it. So we did. That's what we did. And that was very freeing to think it wasn't this big... Yeah. You know, you shouldn't think about yourself in terms of it being like an iconic thing. We just did it again the way that we'd always done it. And thought, what would these characters that we'd left 20 years ago be doing now? And but we knew we couldn't come back toothless and not be the thing it was. Otherwise, what is it? I mean, you instantly will be disappointing for the fans that are expecting to see these people doing the things they did. But time has moved on, and I think, you know, we tried to, without becoming Jim Davison, and right where you start to rail and think, actually I'm becoming like, I'm railing against everything that I used to think was liberal, and I'm finding truth in all these sort of shorthand things that people get incensed about on Twitter. We really had to think carefully, and then we ignored those thoughts, because we thought, what we're doing, why are we second guessing? You can't second guess what anyone's going to think about anything, and you will offend someone somewhere about anything. You know, you do a joke about a cat in a house. Well, my cat died in my house. So what are you doing? And it's like, oh, right, sorry, I didn't know. And so you can, of course, always highlight someone's beef with what you're doing. And comedy, anyway, is very angry-making. A lot of people get very cross with comedy in a way that you just allow dramas to float by. And, you know, you watch an hour and a half of a program and think, it hasn't really got going yet, but I'll give it another watch next week, see if it gets going. It's like, well, apply those rules to a half hour of comedy. Oh. You can't, and you've got to hit the ground running, and then you've got the people's opinions about what's funny. Mm. So, you know, we agonised over, not agonised, it was some lines in Hare Lip in the new one where we thought, is it all going to be hijacked by him, by somehow celebrating a paedophile? You know, that's the thought that we had, that we thought people might somehow take it and run with it and twist it. But we just thought, no, just do it. Just say it's what he was, and that's what's funny about it. And it's a dark comedy, and you're set up for those moments. And in the end, we just thought we're grown up enough to be able to hold two different ideas in our head and not find it offensive. Because that's the problem with the world today. People can't think about two things at once. If you are able to think about it, then you could see a way through of understanding what the humour is, where the humour is coming from, we felt.
No, it's right, and because I mean, Papa Lazarus isn't blackface. Papa Lazarus is a demon.
Well, yeah, I mean, we never, in a conversation about that, ever had the idea. I mean, yeah, you could say it is blackface because that's the look of it in the eyes, but it was always, in our mind, it was like a clown. It was like a dark clown. And we wanted it to be just a monstrous demon from your... And I don't think anyone ever has really had a problem with that. I mean, we never had a complaint. And it comes from a place like the child catcher, you know, or sort of a demon from your worst horrors. It's beyond that. That's the last thing he is. It was just and it was an existing character, and we thought it would be... What would it say if we didn't do it? Would it say that, oh, it's a shame? I don't know. We just felt that we were able to bring him back in a way that was satisfying and not offensive, I don't think.
Well, that absolutely delighted me as well, because I was bracing myself for the kind of new Twitter sphere to be
complaining
complaining about barbers
down before your program's finished.
I know, and I didn't see anybody complain. And that's because, here's my theory, for what it's worth, is because none of it's unkind. It's really dark. It's really, really dark and ghastly.
Yeah.
But there's nothing unkind. I know that sounds stupid, but it isn't.
No, I mean, there are it's brutal, some of the
but
league,
that's not
but
the
it's not the
same.
same. And
No.
I think we did care about the characters.
Yeah.
And, you know, of all of the people and monsters in League, Barbara was always the most sane one.
Yeah, exactly.
And spoke her mind and was very happy with it. And that's, you know, I think
She was a campaigner for LGBT
Yes,
rights.
And we thought there was room in the world to be able to look at the absurdity of the day-to-day changing of what you can and can't say as an idea. And that was how we managed to bring back that character and do it. And you know, people may think he's tin-eared and we're old men trying to still have our cake and eat it. We didn't feel like it was like that, and we felt it was true to the legacy of it, if you like, that we were able to do it.
The broad cross-section of what you do, just theatre acting as well, which if anyone gets a chance here to see Reece on theatre, it's absolutely off the scale. Brilliant. But you've never tried directing, and I quite like that.
Oh, yeah.
I really admire that, because not everybody can do everything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we did a couple of episodes of Number 9 in Series 3, but it's not something I'm that bothered about. I mean, it would be enjoyable to do it if I was only doing the directing, but to do both, I found like neither got my full attention. That was uncomfortable to me. So, yeah, and exactly right. You don't profess to know everything. We're not... You know, I wince sometimes when I see the programme and it starts and it says written by, and then our names are on at the end, starring and exec producing. And it's like Orson Welles type megalomania. But I hope that when we start, we step back and we become just actors in it, and we let the directors that we've chosen bring their thing to it, because you presume that people know better than you do about some other things. And your hope is it's all better for that. And it's better than what we imagined when we wrote it in a room in Muswell Hill. You know, you want it to get along the way, bring all these people in that are raising their game and making this nice thing. And I think people want to work that extra mile on it. You know, it's tight and the work is hard, and we overrun sometimes, and that's never nice to have to ask the crew to do that. But I've never seemed to see anyone mind, and I think it's because they believe in it. Loads of people wanted to work on the League when it came back, because they were all fans of it, so it was like a cherished job to want to be part of. And that's lovely to think it's not a journeyman thing where they're just trudging to work and it's another one. So, and that, because that spills into the way that we think about TV. We try really hard to be fans of it and write it in a way so you watch it and it's not like everything else, it doesn't wash over you. It's hard to do. Television is so disposable, you know, it's next day's chip paper. And to have anything that leaves any mark at any length of time is a real achievement, I think. So to have done it after the League, again, with the things we've done that seem to have had a resonance, is a remarkable thing, I think, that people are still bothered by it, because you've only got that. You play your hand once, all right, they're the dark comedy ones, so that's what that's going to be for the rest of the time. And it sort of is, but it's how you return with and move it on, and that's been the hard part, being the creator of it, to think, can we still keep doing it?
But you're wrong to say it's ephemeral, because I mean, there's the League of Gentlemen things have gone into common parlance. I mean,
yeah, well, I
they
mean
really
that,
have.
yeah.
Are you local? You know,
you
my
local?
wife now, Dave. You know, all that. It's common parlance. The same way that you know Douglas Adams's book went into common parlance. And as soon as that happens, there's nothing you can do about it. It just belongs to another generation, even though they don't know where it came from. It's true.
I guess so.
I mean, everybody goes, "Are you local?"
Yeah.
And you started that.
I know, it's funny, isn't it? I think it did become a...
Television doesn't disappear now because of the internet.
Yeah,
and that's
I
the
know.
thing. You know, it used to, absolutely used to, and you didn't have the kind of, you know, the reel-to-reel, you know, 35mm thing in the back.
I mean,
but now,
it depresses me in a way that you can think, oh my God, what was that moment in that armchair thriller where the woman, and then within about 30 seconds you can find it and watch it. Oh yeah, it was that.
Yeah, the BFI have it.
Where years, you know, on YouTube or anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can imagine not knowing for about a day.
I know. Yeah.
Or being puzzled by something, trying to, I wish I could remember that thing.
You should
find
try
out.
that thing. It's got
Yeah.
play Trivial
lovely
Pursuit with that
thing,
phone.
Let's not know.
Talking about television, which is where all your screen work has been. It's in a really bad place right now. Sorry to everybody who's just getting into it. It's not in a bad place. Some of it is, popular factual particularly, but scripted isn't because of all these new streaming services. But terrestrial, conventional television is in a very peculiar place. It's going to either have to catch up with streaming, or it's going to have to change. Now, you're feeling the pinch of the BBC are nicking all your budget. I know you got on Netflix, but that's just a purchase. That's not
No, that's just UK.
I mean, please say yes to this. Are you looking to that new future of the delivery mechanism of going to somewhere like Netflix or Apple or Prime to make new material? Because I mean, why stick with the BBC? Sorry, BBC, if they're taking it serious, if you're taking it for granted. Is there a better platform?
I don't know. I mean, we plod on. I used the word plod when you rolled your eyes before, but we plod on doing that. We're very happy with our lot. I'm pleased to be the level we're at writing these things in a room, and they're undiluted us when they're on TV. We get very, very little interference, and that's why they feel authored and they feel like they're our thing, but you can't really get your claws into it. I mean, we submit them, and the producers have very few notes, but it would be hard to say, can the ending not be that? It's like to unravel it and pick it. They're too tightly conceived. So that is a very cherishable situation to be in. That's all you're striving for. I tell Jeremy, and he's like, what? You just write them and they're made. And it's like, yes, and that never happens, of course. The hell of unpicking your vision or changing the way you think you wanted to tell the story because someone else has said not on a read-through could be galling. And is for if you end up writing a thing that's like, I'm writing this now and it's not the version I imagined that I want to write. We find it hard of writing our own thing. We often get asked to write other things, and we've turned them down because we haven't got the excitement or the fire to want to write it. And that's luxurious, I know, to be able to be in that position. And I'm not sure every writer is a journeyman writer that can cast their eye on, will you write me a thing about an old people's home? Yes, fine. And you just do a brilliant version. You've got to have a reason to want to do it, and it just has to bubble out of you with a passion. And that, I can't write any other way. I've turned my eye onto certain interests in Number 9, and I'm able to vent in that with those different storytelling aspects week after week, and it's fantastic because he keeps changing it up. But so I'm loath to dare to rock the boat and move to like a situation where it would be like, okay, let's have a look what you've got. This is very, very promising, and then suddenly it would be at the behest of possibly the situation we haven't had for a long time and would now be difficult to take, where it would be like, you don't know everything you know, and I think this is not right yet, and that is valuable, of course. And the good thing about notes, because it's not always bad, is when you get one and it niggles in an area of the script where you think yourself you've had a question mark over it, and then you've got to take that and own it and think, yeah, there's something wrong with that bit, and I didn't know what it was, but the fact that they've highlighted it as well, something about it, and that's an itch you've got to return to and scratch.
I see your point, though, about the kind of autonomy, the artistic autonomy you've got at the BBC, but it sort of rings a bell with that 22-year-old producer leaving Dennis Potter in reception, which is the most awful. So you know what that Dennis Potter, one of the greatest television playwrights ever. Yeah. Some 22-year-old said she'd get back to him. I mean, it's just repulsive. I was saying you didn't direct, but you do direct when you're actually acting, because I remember saying to you just in that two lines, going, is that her joke or your joke? And you went, it's mine. So that's direct.
And I went, it's my joke.
Yeah. Well, no, do you know what I mean? Because it could have been the other way. You could have written the joke for the character.
I think, there's a big thing in the writing of our things, because we're actor-writers, it circumvents a lot of rewriting, I think. I mean, there is rewrites on our things, but as we go, we're rehearsing it, because we'll write a scene and then we'll do it.
Yeah.
And instantly, that tells you a lot. It tells you so much about the script, because you think, actually, it just feels wrong. You go, you don't need that. You can go from there to there, and I can do that in a look. And that's an instant rewriting of a version of events because the writing is important, but it's ultimately how it's on its feet, delivered, is how people will consume it and experience it. And that's a big shorthand that we have just by accident, by the fact that we write it, act it as well. And but we're always very happy for any actor to be in it, to look at the script and say, and, you know, if somebody's not sitting right in their mouth how to say a certain phrase, we'll say, oh, change it. You know, we're not prescriptive about every comma and
really?
full stop. Not massive. I mean, sometimes if it's an approximation all the way through, we'll go,
yeah.
Will you learn it? So otherwise, it's just like what you're doing, you're improing it. But so here and there, if people have got a better idea, we don't go, no, you can't. We thought about this in a room 8 months ago, and every word is absolutely perfect.
That just surprised me, because it's like John Byrne's favourite thing is when he was starting, he always go, I think you'll find that's a comma,
right?
Not a full stop. And you know, I kind of guess that's what
I mean, it depends. It's a case by case, because sometimes it is important exactly what a word we've toiled over is said, and we've gone in and gone, could you actually say that, because that's funnier?
Yeah.
They might not know why, but it just is.
Yeah.
So it's like whether or not it matters or not.
Got another clip. Impossible to pick someone from inside Number 9. Every single one is different. It's brilliant. But this is from Diddle Diddle Dumpling, which is genius. And once again, I mean, genius, I mean, mental illness, or, you know, I mean, you go, you couldn't afford, see, BBC Two could not afford her.
I know, yes. Amazing to get Keely to do it, yeah. We tried to get her a few times, I think, for other parts, and she wasn't free, but finally we managed to get her.
There you go. Not you can get anyone.
Well, I don't know. But yeah, it's lovely that we get to, for having so many years only acted alongside ourselves over and over, it's such a refreshing thing to have casts where we're the same character for a week and we have a different...
And they never intimidate you?
No, it's not. I mean, because they're creeping in on our terms, aren't they? So oftentimes they're more nervous about the tone of it than we are, because we sort of flip between week upon week. And a nice thing that gives us renewed energy when we film the Number 9s is that we have the change in cast week upon week. So Steve and I are flagging as we go through filming for the length of time we do, but then each week is renewed. We've got to sort of go welcome the new cast and start again. And it's like a new production, literally is. So that gives us a new kick in our step when we start again each week. So, but everyone's been, no one has. I remember I met and had a long talk with Helen McCrory. She wanted to meet. I mean, I knew her from what I'd done As You Like It.
Oh yeah.
To play my sister in The Harrowing, and she wanted to meet before and talk about it, because it was like, I want to get the tone. I don't want to arrive on the day and then just talk about it. I want to just know what I'm doing going into it. But she was very rigorous about the part.
Good.
She was saying, what church? It's about at the church, what church am I going to? I said, I don't know, it's just a line. But she was she's great, she's funny.
I love that one. I did see that coming because I wanted it to happen. Anyway, can I ask you a really dull, prosaic question, asking for a friend? When you're writing partnership, who paces and who actually types?
Steve does a lot of the typing, but we do swap.
Right.
I feel like I'm pacing more than he is. But then he'll go, you do it, I'm so tired. We've got like it's a cell, it's a very monastic cell that we write in this room in Muswell Hill, and there's nothing in it. There was a wardrobe, which is where sardines came from for Number 9. We would just stare at this wardrobe every day, and Steve said, is there a game where people go in a cupboard? And we got into that. And we have just the laptop and a few post-its, and that's it. It's really sparse, and I can't even make a cup of tea in it. There's nothing in it.
Because people who write one that paces and types often fall out about that.
Yeah.
You know, because you haven't written it down properly. Anyway.
No, we haven't never really fell out.
The thing you said about your brother, I think it's slightly wrong there, because if your brother catches fish, when he stops catching fish at the weekend, he's off duty. But when you've got a creative mind, this is not being pretentious, I really mean this. Being creative is working 24/7 all the time, because you don't stop. Every time you see something, you walk into a restaurant, you're seeing something that could be possibly an idea. And there's something rather gorgeous for people that work really hard, particularly manually or physically or anything, that when he's stopped catching pelagic fish, that's it, over for the day.
Yes.
It's never over for you.
Yeah, I know that's true. Yeah, it's that line in Miller's Crossing. Isn't it? I'll show you the life of the mind. That's in Barton Fink.
Yeah.
I'll show you the life. I will show you the life of the mind. And it is. It's a funny thing because I've got that mad thing of waking up and in the dark stumbling and writing a thing down, and my wife's like, "What's happening? You're being burgled?" No, I just thought of a thing, and it's them. Yeah. So that's always going on, and it is hard to turn off. I very quickly can turn off, though. I can get into tracts of not doing. I'm loving not doing anything. I mean, we're in the edit, and I'm in every day actually, so I'm not doing it.
That's not what I would call it.
It's not off, no, but it's not doing it. I mean, it's not the doing of it, which is always a terror, because that's the time where you've got to do the best you can do it, so that you've gathered the pieces to then can be put together to make the program, and you just want to you don't want to let yourself down or think, God, the horror of being in the edit and thinking we didn't get a thing, or I let myself down because I didn't know it well enough. I've seen things and I can see when I don't know it well enough, and it pisses me off that I wasn't more rigorous with the lines. So I really make sure now that I can enjoy it and have all the choices by really knowing it, because you can't do it as well as you can do it if you're slightly reaching for the lines. Yeah. This is all acting, but you just have to know it backward, and then you can explore and on a hairpin try different things. You only get about 2 takes. We don't go more than 2 takes. No. You've got to go, right, moving on. And it's like, that's it. That's that big moment that we spent so long in that room writing. Yeah. I've done it now. I've had 2 goes at it, and that's it. And let's hope to God it's there,
I know. I got my line wrong.
Yeah. You didn't, did you?
Yes. You gave me a lovely story about Gemma Atherton and doing a 4-hour setup at Bond.
Yes, that's true.
To make me not so nervous because you're so sweet. You're never going to get bored with Inside Number 9 because of the variety. Because it's not.
It does reset itself.
Yeah, because it's not Black Mirror, which is techno-fair, and it's not Twilight Zone, which has got to be sort of twisting the tail. You can do anything you like, so that actually could go on until you're 90. But I imagine that at some point you will never get bored with the content, but you might get bored with the format. And so I suppose the next step, obviously, is features, to make a feature. And people have been talking about feature of League of Gentlemen, which I think, my personally is a bad idea. But anyway, you must have a million ideas for that. And are you prepared to sort of dip into that nest of serpents that is the film world?
Yeah, well, it would be deciding to embrace the process that you would have to embrace to do such an endeavour. And it shouldn't stop us. We have had talk, and we've wrote, I can't talk about that, but we did write a thing, and it's stuck in the ether of not being able to be made, and it's a really good script as well. But it might be made, and that would be great, and if it happens, but we're mortal, and they take so long. Talking to Jeremy about how they got Ghost Stories finally made, it was 5 years of their lives, but sort of waiting on whims. It's all gone away. Oh, it's all back. And it's all gone away.
It's brilliant as well.
And it's really hard to sort of countenance just taking the energy of that. It's worth it. It's great. I mean, Ben does it, and Wheatley, and you there is the end. You've got this thing that'll last, and he's there, but seen by far fewer people than if it was on telly.
Yeah, I agree. And you've got to be one gear.
It's hard. You have to be really good. I think we would like to do something, but maybe just a low-budget thing, just to experience doing a 90-minute thing. It's a different way of doing it.
Just before open to questions, I suppose just one last question, which is, as an actor rather than a writer, you must get pursued to, even to have parts in Hollywood movies and so on and everything. Have you ever been? And I'm guessing you probably just say no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do. Yeah. No, not that many Hollywood movies, but I've done.
No, I'm sure you will, though. Yeah.
I'm not interested in going away from the family. I try never to go away for more than a week, literally. Yeah. And so I'm very. I'm like Bob Mortimer. I just stay. I'm in all the time. This is a weird thing for me to have come out this weekend. So when I'm not doing the acting, I'm very happy being at home, just pottering around doing my magic tricks and looking in my horrors.
Yeah, I don't ever take a role in Game of Thrones.
Well,
a friend of mine nearly did. I said, "We'll have to stop speaking to you."
Yeah, there was a foray about. I did have some inquiry about Game of Thrones, but I didn't.
No, anyway, right. This is the audience's chance. So we've got a roving mic. So if you want to put your hand up, and I will kick you out when you come in. So lady down the front here. First, thanks. Moving like a gazelle. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I just wondered if you ever run out of, or worried that you'll ever run out of ideas.
Yes.
'Cause that's
Of course,
my fear.
yeah. I mean, that's the tyranny of the number nines is that they consume storytelling and ideas. You know, I'm often thinking, God, we could have done this. This could have been a whole series. You know, but one of the flip side of it is it's great to be able to have those peaks in those stories that you couldn't have if you had to reset. If it was a sitcom or a situation that was going to be ongoing, they're only good because you can conclude with sort of some great, extraordinary moments. But yeah, you just have to think you will not run out of ideas, but you maybe just need to recharge your batteries and let the well fill up again, you know, and just have moments of just going away from it for a while. Otherwise, you start to think you're thinking too much like everything is like everything. You know, often with a few of the number 9 ideas we had for Series 5, we got so far down the road and it suddenly, our eyes, the veil parted and we sort of realised it was the same story done with the nuts and bolts of something we'd already done. And that's even harder now because we've done 25 of them, whatever it is, and it's to sort of tell something that feels very different every time, with us being in them as well. There's a lot of things against us now because of the fact that there's been so many. But yeah, it is hard, but you just got to... The invention and the spark of the germ of an idea can come from the most odd place, so you just hope that as long as you're still in the world, although I'm not, am I? I've just said I'm in my house all the time. You do sort of see things that just will kick off something, you know. And oftentimes you can think of a thing and it might not be right for, you know, you're pursuing something. We've had ideas for stories and they've gone down dead ends. But a bit of that story, when we were pursuing it, has found its way into something else. So nothing ever wasted.
Thank you.
Thanks. Just up in the third row, thank you. I'll come back to you.
Third. Sorry.
Just up there.
Oh.
Okay. Thanks.
Hello.
Hi, I was just wondering, in League of Gentlemen Live again, the musical number between Tubbs and Edward, what was the process behind creating that?
Well, Steve wrote the tune. I was in New York and he sent me, he sang it on his phone. And he said that we should do I think we talked about doing a musical thing with Tubbs and Edward before, and it just felt a nice way of bringing back those characters. And the start of Act 2, we wanted to start with a bang, you know, so full-on Les Mis idea for those two, and we just thought it felt right. In some ways, I wish we'd tried to do the whole hog and done the whole thing as a musical, because it seemed to be very successful.
It was Sondheim, wasn't it? Hey, up there.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Follies.
So yeah, it was just that really, and we'd sort of done a bit of that in the panto version of last time we did some musical number. We've always done songs in the League, so it just felt right that we should do that.
Yes, this lady at the front here, thanks.
Just following on from the first question, I was just wondering, with the League, you obviously had a lot of ideas. You talked about it earlier, about sort of keeping them or like throwing them away because they didn't quite work. Have you ever brought something back closer to for number 9 and things like that, if that makes sense?
Yes, well, we had, I mean, the Silent Singer in Psychoville was a character we'd done for years and in our lives, and we thought that would be a funny thing to give to the world. But no, some things have crept back in. I mean, I'd always wanted to do a Fritzl number 9 where the reveal would be that someone was keeping someone trapped. And we tried an idea with that same idea as the reveal. It's a funny idea, so it might be used again, but it didn't quite fit for that idea. But that reveal ended up in the one that we finally did with Steve being the wedding photographer, and that was an exercise in sort of hiding what was really happening in a story that looked like it was something else. And so some ideas do find their ways back into being useful, but we've never had a full-on character that we've not been able to use because they're mainly born out of the stories.
Yes, down here, and then that lady up there. There was a House of Horror where Brian Cox was kept captive, wasn't there? Do you remember that one? Oh, I'll get to you later. Sorry.
Was that?
Yeah, he was trapped and everything.
Oh yes, yeah, it was Silent Scream.
Yes.
It's Hammer House of
that's
Horror,
it,
Peter
yes.
Cushing, yeah.
I just wanted to ask you about Deadline. When I tuned in to watch it, I felt so gut-wrenchingly sorry for you when the
Yeah.
sound started it. And going from that to being so terrified I couldn't sleep for about 6 hours afterwards. So my question is, how did you and Steve feel through the running of the show when obviously there's a lot of scenes you two were just together on your own? Was it hard to switch off and about what was coming next and just be in the moment? So how did you feel?
It was very funny because we're screening Deadline at the BFI next month, and I think that they've got the gallery, the gallery where they're calling the shots, the audio of it. I think they might play a bit of it, which is good. And it's actually it's quite frenetic, but in between, it's all very ordered. It's strangely not as sort of panic stations as you might think it would have been. It was, because we had the reset time, it didn't feel, and this was fantastic, that once we started, that was it. We were off for a whole live half hour, because we had the moments of respite where we had the archive stuff to be able to go to. And that just gave us a bit of breathing time to get to the next place we need to be in Maidstone. And just go, right, it's going all right, yeah, it's good. But what it did do, what was a scary element of the whole night that we had to get right was not to spread or be too short. Because when you're filming live, what happens is everyone gabbles and it ends up 20 minutes long. Because I'm doing it live, I can't believe it. And then it's finished, and it's too quick. So they were instructing us in between each gap when they come running in, going, we're on course, it's fine. Or you're too long, got it. Can you tighten to the next bit? So that we had a scary bit where it was too long, and we had to do the bit where I wander over to Stephanie Cole, and she's just sat before she cuts her own throat. Can't believe we made Stephanie Cole cut her throat on television. And that was a bit where they said, you've got to speed up, we were a bit over. So we suddenly me and Stephanie had to do that a bit quicker than we would have normally done it. But it was fine, it was good fun. I mean, other than me having my phone on and getting real-time texts from people, it was much calmer. I was really scared at the start. The build up to it, the being beamed, knowing that we were going out live, just became a big thing in my mind. And I remember as the vicar having my cup of tea, and I was shaking with the tea. I thought, I'm never like this. It was really weird.
Not even on stage?
No, not on stage. I mean, the first performance of everything, I get a bit nervous, but generally, and then I'm fine. But I was literally rattling the tea, and I thought, I'll put that down. Calm. And that was scary. And then once we'd got into it, it was fine.
Did you keep the head?
Yes, of course I did.
Just checking.
Of course I did.
Sorry, that lady keep missing you, sorry.
I got it out at Halloween, left it on the side.
Hi. As a sort of writer-actor, are you motivated more by writing like characters for you to play, or more from like telling a story? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we do. It's both, really, but there is the element of, and what's the part for me in it? So we do ultimately think. It's funny. I don't know whether we have a weird sort of rule where we don't really talk about what part that's in there that we're writing in this story that is for you or me, or for Steve or I. But it's funny that it's not the driving force. More and more, we're quite happy to just write the right story without shoehorning in a part for me or Steve, because that has to be the way around it. It is, We hope that people like seeing us in it as well, but that's become less of an important thing than it being a showcase for me and Steve, and more just getting the story right and getting good people to do it. But we always end up with a script where there is two obvious people that we could play, and invariably always the other way around. You could always swap. If you look at the parts that we've played and just play the game of swapping them, you probably you would buy it. I mean, it might be that you watch it and think, I can't imagine it any other way, but we've always had the conversation about, well, I could do that one. Do you want to? Oh, I'll do that one because that's a bit like that one. And in the end, it becomes a pragmatic thing about feeling tonally over the six. You're not repeating yourself a little bit. I mean, of course we are, because we've done so many now, it's hard to do anything different pair of glasses. That's all we've got left.
Lisa here. It's all ladies. Men are also allowed to ask questions too.
Hi, Reece.
Hiya.
You've actually mentioned this just there, but see the scene where you walk towards Stephanie Cole? How there's the piece of camera equipment that's covering your face?
Yeah.
Basically, my brother seems to think that that's not you in that scene, and it's a double. So,
No,
can you
it's
just
me.
confirm that it is you? Because I've told him a
Definitely,
million
yeah.
times, and he's like, no, it's a
Why
double.
wouldn't it be me?
I don't know, because like, you can see you walking in and walking out.
Yeah,
But he's like,
no,
no,
it's
it's
me.
covering his
Some cameras.
face.
Yeah, it was
So,
definitely
right.
me.
So, okay, that's fine, thank you.
We thought it would be, it was quite, that looks so, I mean, obviously it was very deliberately that we didn't see my face in it. We just wanted it to look messy, yeah. No, it was definitely me.
Gentleman there with specs there. Thanks.
You're obviously a huge fan of old horror films and TV
Yeah.
shows. I just wonder what it was like working with David Warner.
Oh, in Warner. Yeah, he was great. I mean, we worked with him on the League film, because he was in that as Dr. P. And we asked him back to do Andrew Pike, the judge in Elizabeth Gadge, which is probably my favourite number 9, that episode, and I love him in it, and I knew he'd be brilliant. He's so funny, and he never gets asked to do it, and I just knew that he would have such a devilish time with it, and he really delivered it. He was sort of the David that we know from Time Bandits, really, in that part. It's that sort of, he was quite evil, but he was actually really funny as well, and Man with Two Brains. He's done lots of really good funny parts, but iconic. I mean, and so humble with it. He was talking. I'm in contact with him, and I can't believe I'm talking to him. I was obsessed with The Omen when I was young. 2 weeks in, I finally asked him about the decapitation scene in The Omen. And I said, "Have you still got the head?" He said, "I lost it in the divorce." But yeah, he was lovely.
Just briefly, are there any other shows or films you would like to bring back? You talked about Hammer House of Horror. Is there anything you would, like passion projects you think should be rebooted that you would like to do?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't. Well, we get to do so many sort of tonally different things that I feel like I'm a magpie doing versions of all the things I used to like. I think they should, definitely, obviously, bring back Columbo, because that would be a brilliant show to
Not without Peter
watch
Falk.
again.
No, it's all him though.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was. It'd be hard, but that is a lovely format to always watch, to know the murderer, and then see how it unravels. And you don't see that very often.
No, my wife. Just one question my wife wants to know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, just up there at the back, just behind you. Thank you. Probably got time just for 2 more questions, I think. Thanks.
Hi, that's been really interesting hearing you talk. Thanks so much. It was just some of the episodes, sort of the Zanzibar one and the cryptic crossword. It's just kind of amazing how clever they are. I'm just wondering if you sort of revel giving yourself those kind of challenges on top of just doing, the normal kind of 30 minutes, because it's amazing like all the stuff that you get into them. Yeah,
I mean, it's wearisome, isn't it, to think. It's hard enough anyway just to do one and then sort of set the parameters of like, let's do one in iambic pentameter. and that was a challenge, and the silent one we did, which was an exercise in can we get to the end without speaking. And then it annoys me because I've read things like, it's such a shame you had to do that last line that you had. It's like, well, that was deliberate, you fucking idiot. Only could have got to the end not without the line. It's not quite silent, is it? It's like, yeah, no, if only we could have nipped that line. So, anyway. You see why I'm so angry.
Yeah, I can see why I'm so angry.
So yes, it is hard. It's a challenge, but one of the beauties of, the joys of it is that we are able to set ourselves those challenges and just try to tell, because it's relentless and it's story after story after story. We didn't want to feel it just falls into something that you can expect to see done in a certain way. So it was always nice to sort of slightly shake up the way we deliver the story. So doing the Shakespeare one, I mean, you might say it's just all gimmicky and doesn't really count, but I feel like we really try to make it worth the while investigating that way of doing it. And it just gives it something else, gives it a different way of experiencing the characters in the story that week. But it's not everything. I don't think it has to be the be-all and end-all.
It's terribly clever. Terribly clever. This gentleman here is the last question, I think. So hello. Hang on, wait for the microphone. So we can all hear you at the back.
Hi, Reece.
Hi.
In Psychoville, your daughter, was she scared of you as Mr. Jelly?
Yeah, I think she was, yeah. She seen me as Jeff as well when she was really little. That was traumatising. She was looking at me like, Daddy? The jelly, we needed a little girl to be... The thing that the BBC were worried about was when it says Mr. Jelly pulls the girl's hair when combing the hair with the hook hand. He had an attachment that was a comb, and it was just really roughly. And they were like, "Oh, you can't be seen to be doing that to a child." And I said, "Well, my daughter and I do that every day." And then it sort of pursued from that sort of idle threat. It was made real, and she came and did it. She was more nervous about suddenly how many more people there are on a set, because you watch things and you think it's just them, don't you? You know, 25 people all just silently looking at you when you're doing it. And that was unnerving for her. She was 6 or something. She was really little. I think it's a really good performance. Yeah. But because she did it quite, from not knowing what to repeat things, suddenly you get into the thing of continuity and being able to do things over and over. So, but she was a bit scared. I think she's told me that she was angry. Amanda Abingdon was playing her mum in it. She was cross with Amanda because she was shouting at me, her dad. So she was on Mr. Jelly's side, which was nice.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much. I'm going to do the boring bit after Reece is gone because I'm not going to let you sit through this. I just want to say thank you so much for coming up. It's unbelievably honoured to have you here, Reece. Everybody, Reece Shearsmith! Reece! Don't want him to listen to the dolls housekeeping stuff. I just want to remind you that today's session is going to give you access to the closing drinks reception and the party that's in the Long Gallery on the 5th floor from 6:15. Yeah, you really should come along because networking is part of this whole BAFTA Guru thing, which is absolutely brilliant. And of course, if you have liked what you've seen today, honestly, I can't stress this enough, you really should consider joining BAFTA Scotland. There's all kinds of different levels where you don't have to have tons of money to join it. The student, there's all kinds of stuff. I have been in it for like 25 years and it's just been the best. Honestly, it's the most wonderful, wonderful organisation to be part of. There's screenings all year, there's master classes, there's mentoring. Honestly, it's the business. So if you just check out the BAFTA Scotland website for more info. And thank you so much for coming. It's great. Oh, thank you, Reece, again. Thank you.